Objectives are to determine the static friction coefficient of various surfaces. The apparatus. Number 1, a wooden block, rubber covered at one side. Number 2, 50 gram masses. Number 3, 10 Newton spring scale. Number 4, string. And number 5, tabletop.
So now, we are going to talk about procedure in this experiment. First thing, we have to measure the mass of the wooden block, record SM. Secondly, we have to set up the apparatus as shown in figure 5.2. Thirdly, we have to make sure the tabletop was stable and horizontal to the ground. Fourth, we have to attach the spring scale and the wooden block with a spring. We have to place them horizontally on the table top. We have to make sure the rubber side of the block is face downward. Fifth, we have to place 50 gram mass on the wooden block. Sixth, we have to pull the spring slowly. Once the block start to move, we have to record the spring scale reading. Record the value as Fs and tabulate in table 5.1. 7. We have to repeat step 4 until 5 for 3 trial. Second last, we have to add another 50 gram mass on the wooden block and repeat the step until total of mass is 500 gram on the wooden block. Lastly, we have to repeat step 1 until 8. Make sure the rubber side of the block face forward and to tabulate the data in table 5.2. That's all was the procedure.
Analysis 4 is compare and discuss the coefficient of static friction μs obtained. Rubber surface have a higher friction coefficient than non-rubber surface. It is because when rubber is added to the wooden block, more force is required to pull it, proving that rough surface increase the coefficient of static friction.
Discussion. How can anti-lock brakes stop a car in shorter distance than regular brakes? The answer is, kinetic friction is used to slow the vehicle down when it comes to a stop if the wheels lock up. However, because static friction is greater, anti-lock brakes pump the brakes so that the tires experience static friction rather than kinetic friction, which causes the vehicle to slow down faster and over a shorter distance.
From your experiment, which material has the highest coefficient of static friction? Does this agree with your hypothesis? What do you think determines coefficient of static friction? The wooden block with rubber has the highest coefficient of static friction. I believe it's determined by the ratio of the maximum static force between the surfaces in contact before movement begins to the normal force.
Number 2. Once the mass begins to slide, does it move smoothly or does it undergo stop and go motion? Explain the motion. Because the block of wood and rubber has a high frictional force that exists when the object accelerates or experiences a change in velocity. A body at equilibrium has a net force which is equal to the sum forces acting on the body.
In summary, students can determine friction coefficient of various surfaces because some of experiment cannot be measured. A larger and more sensitive dynamometers will be required in the future. This improves the data's accuracy and reduces error. More force required to move an object while kinetic friction only need maintained. Adding different material will cause the frictional force to vary, whereas the rolling method is the best way to reduce the frictional force to move the block because insignificant frictional force was observed in this method.